He was offered a sham marriage by MGM. All he had to do was hide who he really was. Instead, he walked away from a million-dollar career and built a new empire with his bare hands. But how did he survive the blacklist that buried everyone else? William Haynes said no, when no one else dared. At the peak of his fame, he was Hollywood's golden boy, charming, witty, and box office gold. But when rumors about his sexuality threatened the studio's image, Louis B. Mayer gave him an ultimatum: marry a woman or vanish. Haynes chose the latter, refusing to betray his partner, Jimmy Shields. MGM dropped him instantly. The industry turned cold. He was blacklisted, ghosted by friends, scrubbed from headlines. But instead of fading, he built something no studio could cancel: a legendary career as an interior decorator for the very stars who once shunned him. Joan Crawford called him her best friend. His designs graced the homes of Hollywood royalty. Quietly, defiantly, he outlived the system that tried to erase him. And while Haynes found power in walking away, the next actor lost everything by staying. Kay Francis had it all, until one wrong feud made her vanish. She wasn't just a star, she was the highest-paid actress in Hollywood. Known for her magnetic screen presence and elegant lisp, Francis ruled the 1930s, headlining hit after hit for Warner Brothers. But behind the scenes, she clashed with studio executives, demanding better roles and more control. It didn't sit well. When her contract came up, Warner Brothers didn't just drop her, they buried her. Offers dried up overnight. Roles dwindled to background characters. By the late 40s, she was taking whatever scraps she could get, if any came at all. She tried theater, she tried charity, but the cameras never loved her again the way they once had. From Queen of the Lot to Forgotten Footnote, Kay Francis became a cautionary tale in couture. She was Hollywood royalty until they revoked her crown. But what if the downfall came at the height of your success? He won 2 Oscars, but died accused of something he never did. Fredric March was a master of transformation, equally magnetic as a tortured veteran in The Best Years of Our Lives, and as the monstrous Dr. Jekyll. He championed civil rights, spoke out against McCarthyism, and earned Hollywood's respect, both on stage and screen. But decades after his death, a college fraternity photo surfaced. An old club with an unfortunate name, the Ku Klux Klan Honor Society. It wasn't the Klan, it wasn't even political, but the damage was done. In 2017, his name was stripped from university buildings. His legacy was smeared across headlines he couldn't answer. Historians tried to correct the record. Fans defended him, but the stain stuck. One of Hollywood's most accomplished actors became a posthumous pariah, canceled by a ghost. His ghost was punished for crimes he never committed, but some legends didn't wait for death to face judgment. He made $1 million a year and lost it all in a single weekend. Roscoe "Fatty" Arbuckle was comedy royalty, one of the first true megastars. In the early 1920s, he was raking in more than Charlie Chaplin. But one party in San Francisco changed everything. After an actress fell ill and later died, Arbuckle was accused of the unthinkable. He was tried 3 times, acquitted, cleared, but the scandal never left him. Studios cut ties. His films were banned. Fan mail turned to hate. He became a punchline, then a ghost. In the early 30s, he finally began staging a quiet comeback, directing under a pseudonym, landing small acting gigs. In 1933, on the night of his wedding anniversary, he told friends it was the happiest day of his life. Hours later, he died in his sleep, age 46. He smiled for the first time in years and died hours later. Some curses never lift. Anna May Wong lit up the screen, but Hollywood dimmed her on purpose. She stole every scene in Shanghai Express, outshining even Marlene Dietrich. Her beauty was undeniable, her talent unquestionable. But the system saw one thing: her race. Wong was endlessly typecast as the exotic temptress or tragic outsider. While plum roles went to white actresses in yellowface, she fought back, fled to Europe, made films on her own terms, and returned with global acclaim. But Hollywood didn't change. The role that could have revived her, The Good Earth, was handed to Luis Rayner in prosthetic makeup. Wong was never offered the lead. Decades later, she was finally cast as the star of her own show on NBC. But before filming began, she died of a heart attack. She fought every stereotype they handed her, but her final act never aired. George Sanders could charm any room, but couldn't escape his own mind. With that velvet British voice and razor-sharp wit, Sanders made villains magnetic. He won an Oscar for All About Eve, played opposite stars like Bette Davis and Ingrid Bergman, and brought a sense of smug danger to every scene. But behind the elegance was a man slowly unraveling. Friends described him as brilliant and deeply bored. After a stroke left him partially disabled, the roles dried up, the applause faded. And in 1972, alone in a hotel room in Spain, Sanders left behind a single note: "Dear world, I am leaving because I am bored. I feel I have lived long enough." It was equal parts dry humor and devastating surrender. No scandal, no headlines, just silence. He won the applause, then faded to silence. But the next star lost everything over a rumor. He rewrote every script until the studios rewrote him out. George Arliss wasn't just a leading man, he was a force. In the 1930s, he could rival the clout of Olivier. But he made one critical demand: total creative control. He insisted on pre-shoot rehearsals, script rewrites, and full veto power. Studios hated it, but his films made money. Still, Arliss played the game his way. He refused fan magazine interviews, blocked reporters from photographing his home, and kept his private life sealed shut. When Newsweek couldn't get access, they retaliated with a petty obituary, mocking his legacy. His theatrical style fell out of fashion, and his name faded fast, swallowed by an industry obsessed with newness. He showed that legends could be built on bluffing until the spotlight turned elsewhere. And then there's the star who chose to vanish before the world could forget him. William Powell walked away while he was still winning. With a martini in one hand and a razor-sharp line in the other, Powell defined sophistication. As Nick Charles in the Thin Man series, he became the blueprint for debonair detectives. He earned 3 Oscar nominations and starred opposite legends like Myrna Loy and Carole Lombard. But in the early 1950s, at the height of his charm and popularity, Powell made an unthinkable move. He quietly retired. No farewell tour, no final role announcement. His last film, How to Marry a Millionaire, was a hit. Then he disappeared. Some say it was exhaustion. Others whisper about personal grief, still lingering after Lombard's tragic death years earlier. Whatever the reason, Powell left while the world still adored him, and in doing so, he became the rare Hollywood enigma. A man who exited on his own terms. Some fade by force, others disappear by design. But the next one never got the chance to choose who. Helen Twelvetrees played heartbreak so well, Hollywood gave her nothing else. She was a rising star of the early talkies, delicate, expressive, unforgettable. In films like Millie and Her Man, Twelvetrees became the face of wounded womanhood, portraying wives betrayed, lovers discarded, and mothers abandoned. Audiences wept with her. But when the pre-code era ended, so did her momentum. Studios no longer knew what to do with someone so raw. The nuanced roles dried up. She bounced from studio to studio, taking what she could. But the magic was gone. By the late 1930s, she was all but invisible. Living quietly, acting occasionally in regional theater, her name erased from marquees that once screamed it. She died at 49. No comeback, no rediscovery. She wore heartbreak like a costume. The last story? He made people laugh for decades, until they forgot he ever existed. Joe E. Brown had one of the most famous smiles in Hollywood, until it vanished. In the 1930s, he was a powerhouse. 3 hit comedies a year, massive crowds, and a signature grin that could light up the silver screen. He wasn't just funny. He was athletic, charming, a born entertainer. A former circus acrobat and baseball player, Brown brought physical comedy to life in a way few could match. But as the decades passed, Technicolor faded, and so did his spotlight. Most of his films were lost, decaying in forgotten vaults. By the 1950s, he was taking small roles, like the unforgettable millionaire in Some Like It Hot. But for many, he was already a relic. Despite decades of work and millions of laughs, his name rarely makes best of lists. The man who once made Warner Brothers a fortune was remembered more as a punchline than a pioneer. He gave everything to make people laugh, but laughter forgets fast. They were icons without monuments, brilliant, broken, or both. Fame gave them a stage, but memory decides who stays in the spotlight. If you're still here, maybe their stories mattered. Subscribe and help us unearth the legends time tried to bury. Because some stars don't fade, they're just waiting to be found.